From The Australian, here's what's on the front. I'm Kristen Amiot. It's Friday, November 21, 2025. New South Wales opposition leader Mark Speakman has stepped down, making way for first-term MP Kelly Sloan to take over the Liberal leadership.
This morning the sun was shining, the birds were chirping, the jacarandas were blooming, and I was on breakfast radio and on TV and saying that I would be continuing as Liberal Party leader. At that stage, no alternative candidate had come forward to tell me they wanted to be the leader. No colleague had said to me they thought it would be better if I resigned. But as I said, a day or even half a day or a few hours is a long time in politics.
It follows days of speculation about Speakman's future and comes in the same week as the ousting of his Victorian counterpart, Brad Batten. The first Test cricket match of the 2025 Men's Ashes series gets underway at Perth Stadium today. And with two of the most evenly matched teams in decades, it's shaping up to be one hell of a contest. That's today's episode. Back in the late 1800s, Australia's fledgling national team clocked up its first Test cricket win on English soil. British newspaper The Sporting Times declared in a satirical obituary that English cricket was dead.
The body will be cremated and the ashes taken to Australia.
England's vow to retain the title spawned one of the fiercest rivalries in sport, with both teams meeting every couple of years for a series of 5 Test matches.
There is nothing sweeter than a Boxing Day 100, and in the most dramatic circumstances.
Well, that is the ball of the summer right there. It's just about unhittable.
Bowled him! Bowler's on fire at the G in England. They are crashing down.
It is England have won. A great win for England at the MCG. Quite a Test match. What a performance by...
Bowled him! There it is. The Australians up. They retain the Ashes on the back of a hometown hero.
Today, almost 150 years later, the Australian and English men's Test cricket teams will meet on the pitch at Perth Stadium for the first Test in the 2025-2026 Ashes series.
We've never had a close Ashes series in Australia in our lifetime.
Robert Craddock is a senior sports journalist.
Australia normally wins easily, and the 2 times they've lost in the last 40 years, they lost easily. So we've been secretly craving the thriller, the one that goes to the last of 5 tests, that builds up and goes back and forth. And this could be the one.
What's the vibe like behind closed doors ahead of a test like the first Test in Perth that the general public maybe doesn't get to see?
There's a lot of nerves coming into the Ashes. And a small anecdote for you, Joe Root, the England star, who's the world's second most experienced Test batsman in terms of runs, only Sachin Tendulkar scored more. He was playing a trial game a couple of weeks ago, getting ready for the tour in Perth, and looked as nervous as any of the players had ever seen him, because he'd never score a century in Australia. There's a lot of pressure on him. And this is the start of probably his last campaign in Australia. So here's this guy, a decorated giant of the game, perhaps England's best player ever. And this little trial game out at Lilac Hill was suddenly really nervous. And that's what the Ashes can do to you. Pressure, expectation. It could make the most experienced and hardy of souls feel vulnerable.
It's been something of an uncertain run-up for the Australian squad in particular. We had Captain Pat Cummins was ruled out the first Test some time ago due to that back injury. The reliable fast bowler Josh Hazlewood was also ruled out due to a hamstring injury last week. And there's been a question mark over who'll open Australia's batting attack with Usman Khawaja following the retirement of David Warner after last summer. Do you think that's affecting the mood inside the Australian camp right now?
I think it has robbed it of a little bit of confidence. I think without Pat Cummins there, That's significant because it's one thing to change your opening batsman and it's one thing to miss Josh Hazlewood, but Cummins is a tremendously pacifying force in this team. He's captain cool. It's his greatest asset. On the best and worst days, he still has that Cummins smile. And gee, it's an underrated quality because it's one thing being a tactical genius in the field, which he probably isn't, but that he radiates coolness and calmness, and not having him there, they'll miss that nearly as much as his bowling.
On Thursday, after weeks of speculation, all-rounder Beau Webster was dropped from Australia's starting 11 in favour of debutants Jake Weatherald and Brendan Doggett.
For a start, it gives excitement and freshness to it. And they're two great stories. Jake Weatherald has been to hell and back as a cricketer. He's in his 30s now. But on the way up, his game was in really poor state and he was having suicidal thoughts. And his wife said to him, Jake, you need specialist help. Not for your cricket, but for yourself. And he somehow found his way through it. Now, normally that's a crisis a guy will go through after his cricket career is finished, or normally the end. He hadn't even started it. So to go from that fragile mental state, Kristen, to play Test cricket makes him one of Australia's best sports stories of the decade. It really does. He has climbed an incredible mountain. And then you've got Brendan Doggett, just the third Indigenous male cricketer to play a Test for Australia. What a story he is. At age 21, he was a country carpenter in Toowoomba with no aspirations. He'd never played representative cricket. He never thought he ever would. He was working as a chippy Monday to Friday, playing club cricket on the weekends, and his life was bliss. And then his brother went to Brisbane. He thought, I might go down and join him and play a few games down there. And he just went up through the system. 10 years later, he's playing a Test match. It's a great story. It inspires every country cricketer who has a dream but never thinks they're going to make it. Well, Brendan Doggett is your man because every Doggett has his day.
Someone who wasn't named in the Australian Ashes squad is 20-year-old Sam Constas. He put on an incredibly entertaining and fearless display against the incredibly dangerous Indian pace bowler Jasprit Bumrah last summer.
Bumrah with big noise supporting him, running into Constas, who's tried 2 ramps and 2 charges in his first 21 balls at Test level. Now he goes for the ramp, over the top of Rishabh Pant.
But he's been inconsistent in the domestic Sheffield Shield competition more recently. Do you think he will have an Ashes berth in future? And do you think the criticism that's been levelled against him is fair?
The criticism has not been bitter or acerbic or anything like that. It's just been a statement of fact. You know, he's really struggled to know his game. He's a young boy of 20. And he's so far off knowing who he is and what he is that the best thing they can do with him is put him in the Sheffield Shield for a couple of years and let him find himself. He's a really nice lad. Everyone likes him. You talk to Mitchell Starc about him and he'll go on for minutes about how he's such a humble kid. He's open to any sort of suggestions. And I think he'll get back there. But at the moment, Kristen, he doesn't know who he is. He doesn't know whether he's an attacker. He doesn't know his defensive game. So he needs to find himself. So a couple of years out of the spotlight will be just what Sam Constas needs.
Coming up, why England's feeling more confident than ever ahead of this Ashes series. Now, in fairness, we should probably talk about the English team. You mentioned earlier that these are 2 of the most evenly matched teams we've seen in an Ashes series in a long time. The retired English vice-captain Stuart Broad said recently, this is the worst Australian team in 15 years and the best English team. How do you rate England's prospects in this series?
They were 2 pretty extreme observations, but he wasn't far out. This is the best England team in 15 years. And with the 2 injuries to Australia, this is one of their weaker teams in 15 years. But there was something else he said about England. They're playing this baseball cricket. It's a really rampant attacking game. But their coach, Brendan McCullum, has had a policy of a no whinging in the dressing room. You do not complain about anything. And they've been mocked for it and people laughed at it because they said, oh, whinging Poms, they'll find a way to complain. But they don't. Mark Wood twinged his hamstring the other day, went back to the dressing room and would not complain. And I really like that game plan, Kristen, because I've seen so many English teams come here over the last 40 years. And you can almost see Graham Gooch used to walk through customs with his shoulders down and say, oh, it's bloody hot here, isn't it already? And as soon as you start whinging, it's like the All Blacks rugby union team when they toured England used to have a policy. You weren't allowed to say it's a cold day because as soon as you do, it gets colder. And I like this positivity. They're a chance this year, England. They really are.
Robert Craddock is a senior sports journalist. You can follow all the action from the first Ashes test at theaustralian.com.au.